Good evening and welcome to tonight's Hearthstone Half Hour. I'm Hammy from Felcraft Cast and felcraft.org, and welcome to a brand new week in the world of Hearthstone for us. We are back into our normal swing of things. Today is Monday, so we're going to be focusing on new to intermediate players today. And today we're going to be continuing our Know Your Enemy series. So in Know Your Enemy, if you're not familiar with what we've been doing before, you can see the previous videos on our YouTube. But we basically pick a class that we either want to learn a bit more about, we've maybe been seeing a bit in the ladder or games that we've been playing, dive under the skin of it, and by playing as that class as much as we can in a few friendly games, try and learn not only how to play against it better, but a bit more about how it ticks. So very much exploring that idea of if you're having a problem against something, then it's good to try and put the shoe on the other foot and learn exactly how that class or opponent is trying to play in similar ways. So although it's not been so popular recently, we've seen a few aggro decks recently, and sort of by aggro I mean really hitting you early in the game, really trying to get in your face, as opposed to maybe something like Control, which is a bit more measured, trying to sort of dictate play rather than really put the pressure on early and hard. So today we're going to take a look at Warrior. Now I've not played a huge amount of Warrior, and as we just slip away from our little slate image into the game, you can see that my Warrior experience so far is a little bit on the low side. As we can see at the moment, my poor Warrior is actually sitting at level 9, so I am going to be some of the key Warrior cards missing. Of course, that's never good when you're trying to copy a deck list or similar. So what we're going to do in terms of this format is we've always jumped in, taken a deck list that we've liked the look of, which is broadly similar to something we played against, try and recreate that deck as much as possible whilst understanding exactly what it's trying to do and what makes it tick. And then finally, having roughly recreated the deck or the enemy that we want to learn a bit more about, we then get stuck in as soon as we can and just simply jump in and play a few games. So, and really get stuck into it. So let us delete whatever Warrior I had in the past. We are going to recreate into the new Hearthstone Half Hour Warrior deck. 18 out of 20 basic cards. I'm sure those final 2 basic cards are pretty important. And let us jump in, and it's the HSHH Warrior. In fact, it's the HSHS Thor, because I've been watching a lot of the fantastic Marvel Universe films recently and really enjoying it. So Thor it is. Thor might not be quite a warrior, but I guess in Hearthstone that is the closest thing it's going to be. And good evening to you, Mr. Vardes, and you other guys who are not logged into Twitch but are streaming in. It's great to have you here. So today we're taking a bit of a look at Warrior. So the Warrior inspiration that we've gone for today, as I said, we've seen a bit of aggro Warrior in various friendly games and similar we've played against. As part of playing any kind of card game, you want to get familiar with all of the meta game, the various different decks that you might come across. Naturally, some will always be more popular than others. You see a lot of mages, a lot of druids, some rushing hunters and all that kind of stuff. The Warrior I've not seen so much of recently, in particular it doesn't seem to be hugely there on the high ladder, but less than a month ago there's a guy on Reddit called Razor, and he got himself to #1 legend on North America. So the Warrior is by no means a month is a long time in a week is a long time in politics, a month is a long time in a card game, particularly a digital one like Hearthstone. But Warrior can definitely do some damage. If it can get to #1 legend, then there's certainly some potential. So how do Warrior decks actually spin around, and what do they kind of do? Well, if we take a look at your Warrior hero, his ability for 2 mana is Armour Up. He can stick some armour on himself. Warriors, if you're familiar with World of Warcraft, swing away with weapons, and Warrior decks have got a lot of mechanics that either spin off the amount of damage maybe the Warriors take and the amount of damage minions or similar have actually taken. So Warriors have got some interesting options. They've got area of effect, they can use weapons for a lot of damage, but what we're going to do is, in terms of our Know Your Enemy series, we're going to jump into Razor's deck list and take a bit of a look at that. And the first thing on Razor's deck list is Inner Rage. Now if we take a quick look at Inner Rage, dealing that 1 damage to a minion and giving it 2 attack, well, that's got a multitude of uses. If you've got a minion with a reasonable amount of health, and giving it that attack for free, there's absolutely no mana cost whatsoever, so that's a great little buff. But there are some cards out there that when you deal damage to them, it gives them attack anyway, and that mechanic on a card is called Enrage. So immediately, if we have some Enrage cards, you can see the synergy, you can see the combination. If I have a card that does extra damage when it's damaged, and I damage it myself using Enrage for that 1 damage, then it will get 2 additional damage buffs. It will get a damage from the Enrage ability on the card, and it will get a damage from my Enrage as well. So very, very quickly, that minion that I had that was maybe a little bit weaker to start with, now suddenly becomes very, very powerful. What happens if I combine that with a Mechanic Light Charge? Well, we not only have a more powerful minion, but one that can swing hard and fast. Next up, the splendid deck of Razor contains 2 executes, destroying a damaged enemy minion. A bit of a no-brainer. 1 mana, very, very cheap. So, as we said, Warriors' effects, and some of the effects that Warriors have either play off the damage that a minion sustained or a damage that you've done to a minion. So, if I can just get 1 damage onto that, let's say Ragnaros or something like that, the next turn I can pick it off for 1 mana. So execute, if you've managed to get damage on your opponent's cards, an immensely mana effective spell for the amount of damage to a minion it could potentially do, whether it's an early small minion or a late very, very heavy minion. Think of a Molten Giant or a Mountain Giant or something with a lot of HP and a lot of damage potential. You just need a little bit of damage on him and execute will come in and finish him off. So execute, a very, very solid card as well. Now, our deck also contains 2 Whirlwind, so I'm sure you can see we've just come off of execute, so you can now see the potential of Whirlwind there. Say for example, if I use Whirlwind for 1 mana and do 1 damage to all minions, yeah, okay, that's going to be dealing damage to my own minions as well. I'm going to have to be quite careful about that, but supposing I then follow up with an execute for 2 mana, hey, what has my opponent got on the table? I've already done that 1 damage for 1 mana to his minion. It could be something very powerful, as we just said. The execute swings in afterwards. Amazing little combination. And for 2 mana, maybe I've taken out a 7 or an 8 health card. It could be a 7 or an 8 mana cost card. And one thing that you look at in your trading card games is very much that sense of trade and balance, in terms of, am I able to do something that benefits me? You know, does it cost me less mana to do? Is it quicker for me to do? In terms of that trade of my minion against his minion or my turn against his turn, am I somehow getting an advantage? And I'm sure you can appreciate that a Whirlwind and Execute combination for 2 mana, removing, say, a 7 or an 8 mana minion, or maybe even more than that, if I have multiple Executes, that's very much a trade that will go in my favour. It will give me field position. By field position, I mean it might give me a beneficial position of my minions against my opponent's minions on the table, or something similar. So, already there, in terms of Inner Age, we've got something that could buff our minions, and the Execute Whirlwind combo that can be potentially very, very strong. Now, I'm hoping... Ooh, a gear 2 is me looking at the keyboard and not seeing what I'm doing. So a Fury War Axe, we can see that basic card is just giving me a weapon option. So warriors swing with weapons. We know that from our World of Warcraft, if we've been playing it. 2/3/2. The thing I'd say about this is, if you think of your minions, your neutral, solid spine minions that we've discussed in previous games, 2 mana, 3 attack, 2 durability there. That's a card that I can not only pull out early in the game, but I can start swinging with that 3 attack, a vital figure at this sort of early game stage in terms of health. So that 3 attack will let me use my warrior to start picking off opposing early minions, most of which shouldn't have huge amounts of health. So a very solid deck card in that Fury War Axe. Cleave is next up, and you can see already how this deck is actually taking a good advantage of a lot of really very basic cards. We haven't had huge amounts of legendaries or anything in here so far. There's one that I'm not going to be able to pick in just a second, but Cleave dealing 2 damage to 2 random enemy minions. Again, for that 2 mana cost earlier in the game, Cleave could be picking things up, and as we've already seen with Whirlwind, that could be setting up an Execute. It's just getting the damage on the table to pick something off. So Cleave it is. A couple of those. Slam! 2 damage to a minion, and if it survives, draw a card. Well, card draw, we've previously talked about the concept of deck acceleration. Anything that helps you get the cards out that you want more quickly. That could be drawing more cards, it could be allowing you to pick specific cards that you want from your deck. Slam does a good amount of damage for the 2 mana, and you can also choose if you want to draw that card. Say for example, if you damaged 2 damage to a 3 health minion. So the card draw effect, unless you're using it to effectively remove a minion from the table for that 2 damage, is very much within your control. So again, another real nice solid card. Now, the card from Razor's deck list at the moment is not one that I have, so I'm going to go into crafting mode and just quickly show you it. Blood Mage Thanos. Now this guy in here. Why do I want spell damage in a warrior deck? Well, if I was casting spells, it would do some benefit, but it's really for the death rattle. The death rattle as well, drawing that early game card, will let you keep your deck being accelerated in the early game. I'm not actually going to grab that, so I need to replace that at the end of the game. Previously in our Hearthstone half hours, we've talked about the concept of, if you're deck listing, you need to try and copy the deck list as closely as possible, and there are some reasons for that. I mean, a lot of people can be very sort of, oh, you're copying the deck, you don't understand it. What we're trying to do here is understand why the player whose deck we're taking some inspiration from has picked these cards. Now, the reason you've got to try and imitate it or copy it as closely as possible is very simply because in a 30-card deck or in any card game, you've tried to pick every card for a reason, and the less of those cards you can actually copy, the more chance there is that you're actually going to be moving further and further away from the original idea, the synergies, the combinations in the deck that make that deck what it is and make it work really, really well if you've picked something pretty decent. So we need something in terms of Blood Mage Thalnos that will let us have that early card draw. So we'll come back to our Blood Mage a little bit later in our Know Your Enemy deck listing. So the next thing up we have, I think this is something we should be able to grab. Yep, certainly can. 2 Youthful Brewmaster. And I need to get out of crafting mode, otherwise I'm just going to be clicking and doing nothing. So being able to, there's a nice little combo that comes up with these cards. So Youthful Brewmaster goes with Molten Giant and also goes with Warsong Commander, or used to before the Warsong Commander got a bit of a tweak. We will show you exactly what that does in a second, but being able to return that friendly minion from the battlefield to your hand has a very, very interesting purpose, which we'll take a look at in a bit. But otherwise, Youthful Brewmaster, in terms of... let's get that up. 2/3/2, 2 mana, 3 attack, 2 health, very solid sort of neutral minion. Those are the kind of stats you want for a 2 mana minion, and then that Battle Cry is a lovely little bonus. Let us quickly pull up Shield Block. So you want to keep alive warriors. The hero power naturally gives you an additional 2 armor, and Shield Block is just a really, really solid card. If you're lacking other options, or if you want to get yourself armored up, gaining 5 armor and drawing a card for 3 mana, hey, there's a lot worse things you can do. Drop a couple of those, suddenly you've got effectively an extra 10 health, and your opponent is having to swing at you a lot more to get you into that highway to the danger zone, as Top Gun fans would say. Hey, it's been a long day, don't judge me. Raging Worgen. Now, although this is a common, it's a very strong one. So you may have seen previously that we drew in a rage, do 1 damage to a minion and give it 2 attack. So how about if this minion is enraged, so if it takes a damage, it gets Wind Fury in 1 attack. So let's say our minion somehow gets attacked by something and it goes down to 3 attack and 2 health. It will have Wind Fury, so it can attack twice and it has 1 attack. And hey, obvious combo. What happens if I drop an Inner Rage on that Raging Worgen? Well, the Inner Rage will give it 2 attack. Because it's enraged, it will get an additional 1 attack, so suddenly I have a 6 attack Wind Furying minion on turn 3 for 3 mana. That is painful. So turn 4, when that's sort of had its summoning sickness or similar, I can then come in, and if my opponent doesn't pick this off, I'm immediately doing 12 damage with this Raging Worgen straight to my enemy's hero. If my enemy cannot tank, if he cannot block it, if he can't pick it off, suddenly my Raging Worgen is a very early game painful, oh so painful threat. Lovely little combo there. Warsong Commander. Now the combo with this one, this card changed, so the previous combo was a little bit stronger, but whenever you summon a minion with 3 or less attack, give it charge. We'll play with it in for the time being. I think that this may actually be a little bit less strong than it used to be. I think the Warsong Commander text basically allowed you to give the 3 or less attack bit was the bit that was added. You could previously bring in bigger minions and let them charge, so if you think of the Youthful Brewmaster combo, you can effectively pick up minions, drop them back down, give them charge, and effectively use your Youthful Brewmaster to take away a minion that took some damage. You can then drop it again, and then with the Warsong Commander's charge mechanic, it could then just immediately attack again. So that combo with the Brewmaster effectively allowed you to heal minions. That was one good thing that you could do with it. So let's pretty solid. We'll try Warsong Commander. That's still, obviously, I could charge in straight with a Raging Worgen at some point in the game, for example. But it has to have that 3 or less attack. We'll leave that in for the time being. Said, you know, a month is a long time in trading card games, so the Warsong Commander is maybe a little bit less effective. Let's see how it goes. If you don't try, you don't know. So we'll give that a good go. Now the Arathi Weaponsmith. 2 of those go straight in. Be a common, but the battle cry sticks a weapon on my warrior. And hey, 3 attack, 3 health is not too shabby for a 4-mana summon. But what that lets me do is effectively get a weapon, so my warrior hero, who has got some armour on him at this stage, can keep swinging with a weapon and keep doing damage. So Arathi Weaponsmith, pretty solid. And we of course can also have charge with our Warsong Commander as well. That can charge in and start attacking as well. Let's not forget that. The Brawl. So if we look at Brawl, destroy all minions apart from one chosen randomly. Brawl is hey, if in the later game there's a really nasty field of minions against me or something similar, Brawl should help me even the stakes a little bit. There is going to be a random minion left over. Could be mine, could be my opponent's. I'm not entirely sure, but one way or another, it's going to help me reduce the field. Hopefully even the odds, but that one Brawl is sort of very much a situational card. You're not wanting to be slinging that around everywhere. Oh, and I do not have 2 Azure Drakes. Do you know what? I might actually buy a couple of these. Create 2 of them. So let's drop them in there. Azure Drakes, you can see, hey, I've got spell damage and I've got the battle drive drawing a card as well. So again, that gives me that additional card draw and some minions that I can jump in and push on with 2. The Drake, you know, it's basically will. The important thing as well, I sort of underestimated earlier, but remember that spell damage does affect Whirlwind and Cleave and similar things like that. These are actually spells. So when I was mentioning the Blood Mage earlier, that spell damage bit, although not sort of key on Blood Mage for these, if I'm adding 1 attack to Cleave, if I'm adding 1 attack to Whirlwind, then that is actually moving, you know, minions off the table. So if I was playing a swarm deck of some description, Murlocs are similar, then that would actually let me turn those spells into flat out sort of removal, really, as well as just doing some additional damage. So let's see, I don't know if I have 2 of this gadget zone. I do, 2 gadget zone auctioneers, and again some flat out draw power, because remember I've got a lot of low cost spells in this deck. Whenever I cast a spell I draw a card. It's dropping gadgets and auctioneer means that I can additionally attack, and all of these low cost spells mean that I'm drawing cards as I do so, which is pretty good. So I'll get those, and last but not least, some pressure in the form of the Molten Giants. So the reason it's Molten is that I want to be attacking with my hero. So if I'm attacking with my hero and I swing in with the Molten Giant, my hero should have taken some damage. If I've not overwhelmed my opponent or got really up in the early game, then the Molten Giant can sit there and wait in case I take damage. Or if I have attacked a lot with my hero and got myself into a position where I'm ahead and in a good position, but I've taken a lot of damage, the Molten Giant comes in and is really my late game cleaner. He comes on in and he starts swinging and doing some damage and finishing in all of the best kinds of ways. So we have now 29 cards. So we've deck listed pretty much. I had to create a couple of cards, but you would have noticed that really mostly in there's a few rares, that's true, but a lot of it is commons and there's quite a few basics in there as well. So cost wise is actually quite a cheap deck to put together if you want to give Warrior a go. Very, very aggressive. So the last thing we need to do, now of course we did not have Blood Mage Thalnos, so what we want to do is give something that either gives us a bit of spell power in the early game or lets us draw cards. So we want to try and replace like for like, even if we can't replace precisely what we were trying to do. 1 damage to a minion and 2 attack. It's a vicious card, the Cruel Taskmaster. Imagine if we dropped just 1 of those on top of our Raging Worgen, as well as a very, very vicious Inner Rage, for example. That would be incredibly painful indeed. But I'm going to sort of try and keep the principle of the deck going, and I'm going to try and pull something. I'm going to try and drop a neutral minion in that gives me that early game card draw, just in case I want to get going in the early game. So there's 2 things I could do. If I was going very aggro, I could of course go for the very strong Loot Hoarder. I can do some damage, I can draw a card, sort of a bit fire and forget that really, with a Novice Engineer. And really between those 2, the battle cries, draw a card, so I could get the card immediately, or I could wait until he dies and do some damage. I think I'm gonna go with the loot hoarder. I like being able to get very aggressive, and even if they destroy me, I've still got that card draw in as well. So that is our nameless warrior, the warrior with no name. He's now going to become that HSHS Thor. The Thor theme music. Just seen Thor: The Dark World, and absolutely loving it. And I'm a bit late to the party on that one, but it's a fantastic film. Great popcorn stuff. Okie dokie, so we are now going to jump into the second part of our Know Your Enemy New Player Monday special. So after breaking our deck down, after deck listing it to the best of our ability, and really having a look at how the deck is put together and the different combinations and synergy it has, the next thing we do to get really underneath the hood of a class a bit more, or understand how a particular deck works, maybe a deck that we've been struggling against, is just take it for a spin. So you notice we've jumped into casual mode. No fear about getting into casual mode. You do not always in Hearthstone, or indeed any game, have to go and compete on the ladder and play people who are playing for keeps and all that kind of thing. We're practicing here, so there's nothing wrong with just playing a nice bit of casual fun and really getting stuck in. So let's now go into our example game. So what have we seen in this deck construction? There's a lot of sort of quick drawing in this early deck, so you can get a reasonable lead on your opponent early if you get the right kind of draw. There's a lot that will let you deal with rush decks. So in terms of early game cards, I quite like having the Warsong Commander. I don't mind Cleave. Do you know what? In terms of that, I'm going to grab this. The Warsong Commander, of course, is great because I can get sort of some of the charges in. It's similar. It's not quite as strong, of course, because it used to go with the Giant. There's nothing, however, I can play first turn. There's also a little bit of a pain. So what combos do we have? There's a lot of stuff you can drop. So turn 2, I can start swinging early on with my axe. I can armour up. My hunter's got no options at the moment. So I'm not going to attack the hero straight off. What I'm going to do is just armour up. Now he's going to drop, I know, because he's a hunter. I would imagine he's trying to rush. So getting that additional armour for when I have my weapon will let me just steady shot him. Okay, it's just totally evenly balanced out. So if I can armour up and get a weapon down, what that will let me do is start putting some pressure on the table. Now I could get my Warsong Commander down so that next turn I can charge in with my loot hoarder. He may continue attacking. I'm going to look to get some early pressure down, and probably drop a loot hoarder next go, and then start swinging with my minions. So there are lots of late game combos, as we talked about. We had Worgen and Inner Rage, which can do a whole chunk of damage. And a straight swing just gets rid of my commander and gets rid of that early threat, and he's got a weapon down. So I'm not going to drop my Worgen for the time being. There's no minions for me to remove. I can armour up and draw a card. I'm in really no pressure here at the moment, because as this draws, if he's not rushing, I can afford to armour up and get my good card of hands. If he was getting really aggressive, I'd probably want to clear his table of minions as soon as possible. I'm not seeing too much. I'd like that Inner Rage as well, so I can drop my Worgen combo. The Weaponsmith will let me drop a weapon. I can draw a card, but really at this stage he's got 2 secrets down there. Now I'm going to need to taunt those secrets out. Those secrets could destroy my minions. They could do some additional damage to me and things as well. I'm going to drop my loot hoarder. I'm just going to really... There we go. Yep. So I've lured out his snipe in terms of playing against that secret. I'm quite happy with that, because it just lets me draw a card, and there comes my Inner Rage. Now I could have another one that could be an explosive trap, various things it could be. I'm going to see if it's something that revolves around attacking his hero. I'm just going to try and taunt this out. There we go. Explosive trap, 2 damage to one enemy, so I've got no minions on the table, and it did 2 damage to the hero. But revealing the secret does make sure that his bow gets a bit more durability. We've talked a few times in terms of our New Player Mondays as to how to play against secrets. I know that episode's still overdue. I get mentioned that every time, so I will plan that for next week and we'll get it in. But what I did there effectively is I know that a hunter's secrets can do a few things. They can pick off my minions when I drop them. We saw that snipe. I know that you've got explosive trap. I know you've got misdirection, so the explosive trap we saw did 2 damage. Because my hunter, I've chosen to armour up with my warrior, really. I got rid of his secret at no cost here. Misdirect meant that if I tried to attack him, I would randomly attack another minion. So, really, this guy's got weapons down and he's not doing too much so far. I do have my inner rage now. There is still this secret. If I attack with a minion, it could get me to randomly attack another character. But what I'm going to do is I can't charge in with this Worgen just yet. Now, obviously, I could have done if I had my other Warsong Commander out. So I'm going to keep the swinging going. I'm just going to drop another weaponsmith and equip a weapon. And I'm not going to slam because there's no minion, so I'm saving this in a rage. I'd like to be able to charge with my minion on one go. I'd like to try and attack my opposing hero to see if I can just lure out that secret. A big welcome to you people joining us on the stream. We are playing through a list that we deck listed, just in terms of a new player episode and learning about the warrior. Right, my minion has been removed. I've still not had a chance to reveal this secret. We could have another explosive trap, we could have all kinds of things. But you know what, at this point in time I'm well armoured up, I'm in a good situation, I've got a bunch of good cards in hand, and I've not got huge amounts of options. I don't really want him to remove my Raging Worgen because I want to be able to charge in with it. I'm kind of waiting for that other Warsong Commander. So maybe that play was perhaps not the best in the game. There's absolutely no reason I can, if this is an explosive trap, I can remove it by just attacking it, and I've got the mana. Armour to defend against it. Now you may notice that by attacking his hero that didn't lure the hunter's secret out. So what have I seen that could be? That could be a snipe. If I drop a minion it could do 4 damage to it. It could be a misdirect. If I attack him it could refocus to attack on a different thing on the table. It could be a freezing trap. If a minion attacks it could return to my hand and cost more. Or a snake trap. If I attack a minion, then 3 snakes are summoned. So I don't have a whirlwind at this point in time. I do have a cleave that could remove some stuff from the table. So between those 5 secrets, I need to. If I drop a minion, I can tell whether it's snipe or not. Now I don't really want to lose that Worgen, but you know what? I've got 2 Worgens, so let's see if he's got snipe. Yep. And there we go. So we've lured out the snipe. He's now played 2 snipes, so I know that he can't snipe another one of them. I kind of want to get rid of that Leok. What options do I have? I cannot charge in, but I can deal 2 damage and draw a card. Lovely. And there's the Gadget Zone Auctioneer in there. I can then execute him for 1 mana. Bye bye. Lovely stuff. And with my remaining mana, you know what? I'm going to armour up and just attack the hero again. Keep some pressure on. So through armouring up early in the game with that shield block, we've really seen the seed already. And there we go. Very, very good piece of play. I'd like to get one more quick hit in, because I don't think we really fully saw as much as we could of really what our warrior deck was up to there. But that's a very, very basic intro to this warrior deck. We did not have loads of early game combos. You may have seen there that we actually probably played that Warsong Commander a little bit prematurely. Probably since this deck that we're taking a look at was built. As we know, the Warsong Commander has had a pretty major change. And therefore you can see we were kind of waiting to play on Raging Worgen, whereas if we'd held on to that Warsong Commander, we would have been able to charge in with that Worgen. As it turns out, there were some snipes there that could have caused some troubles, some explosive traps, stumbling over my words, and you can see that's not a bad early game hand again, in terms of what we have. We have a slam to draw cards, we've got an axe to be able to trade minions, we've got our Raging Worgen and Warsong Commander, so in terms of going second and getting a coin, very, very happy with that. And this time we have a Warlock. Why do you call? Let us see what we've got. So a minion tank to start with, almost straight away. So I could coin into various things here. At this point in time, I'm not going to. I could just coin into a slam and draw a card. Could coin into an axe and remove that minion. I don't know whether our chap is going to rush in or not. You know what? I'm going to attempt to take ball control very early. get rid of that table. Now, I've never played this deck before. I'm reasonably familiar with some of the mechanics behind it, but do, be aware that as you're trying to learn a bit about your enemy or learn a bit about a new class or a deck that you've been playing against, you're not going to get it right all the time. You can deck list, you can get familiar with what the deck has inside, but at the end of the day you need to play and you will make mistakes, and that's absolutely fine. In this situation I could just swing into the hero a bit more. The more damage I do to a warlock, the less likely he is to be using life tap later in the game to draw cards. So I'm just going to swing at him. An equally valid option then would have just been to knock on the table and not do the damage if I wanted to save that last 3 attack on my weapon for maybe picking off a minion he dropped or something similar, and that's absolutely fine as well. Very much part of this kind of know your enemy, trying out new decks and experimenting, making mistakes, but taking a little look at the game after you played and not beating yourself up, but just saying, right, here's what I could have done a bit better. So last time I probably shouldn't have played my Warsong Commander. He really came in and tried to take it out, but if I play the Raging Worgen, it's equally as much of a target as well. I could just armour up more. I'm going to go again with the Warsong Commander and see if again that is just a magnet for him to pick off. He's got a good ability, not as good as it used to be. Obviously next turn this would let me bring in my Raging Worgen and swing into him for a lot of damage as well. What's it going to be? Warlock Friend. What options have I got next turn while our pal here waits to play? Well, I can always execute if I do some damage to anything. You can see the slam and execute combo there I could quite easily do. Yep, a Shadow Bolt. Wastes no time. Well played to you, sir.
Thank you.
Option wise, I cannot slam into my... I could slam my own Raging Worgen, of course, to enable it, but at this point in time, if in doubt, armour up. Warriors can armour up and get themselves well protected.
That was a mistake.
Oh.
That was an error.
I'm not sure whether I'm being smack talked. There you go. Ascension Shield Master comes on in. Good little tank there. But now you see I can pick that off for 3 mana. Nice little combo. So I may as well just do that. It lets me draw a card as well, so I'm quite happy with that. 2 executes. Execute him off the table. And I could armour up. I'm going to roll into the loot order because, hey, if he picks it off, it just means I'm going to draw another card. Similar to Blood Mage Thalnos, but obviously I don't get the spell power. And our young loot hoarder is a little bit less durable. Harvest Scholar. Very good card. The Death Rattle. If you pick it off, then it does damage to you again by summoning that golem if you can't get rid of it. So nice. There's the Molten Giant. So I could be swinging with my warrior and doing a lot more damage if I had a weapon out, which I do not. That saddens me slightly. Well, we're going to roll that combo again. I go Whirlwind as well. Fantastic. So here's a nice little combo, and this is one of the fun things you can do. Now, obviously I can't charge in at this point in time. A little bit of an error there. So let's Whirlwind. 1 to 4 minions. That gives me my Enrage effect, but naturally, I can't just attack at this point in time. Maybe he's going to get picked off. And in fact, that's a bit of a misplay because he'll still get that 2 minions. So I forced him into the trade there. Really, I still wanted to be dropping this Raging Worgen with a Warsong Commander because that means I could actually charge and do the damage with that card. So a misplay by me there. Instead of actually doing an attack, I forced him into some damage. Oh, and a Battle Cry of deal 5 damage to your hero. And a very strong play of the Sun Fury Protector as well. So although he's done 5 damage to himself, Warlock cards, of course, we've talked about in previous episodes, very much, are very strong for the mana cost they have, but have some kind of negative side effect. Dealing 5 damage to your hero, I think, could definitely be considered to be a negative side effect. But he's then turned that into a tank with the Sun Fury Protector, and suddenly, I don't have options. You know what? For fun, I'm going to play a Brawl. Fight. Oh no! Oh yes! That was luck.
Well played. Sorry that
I'm sorry.
happened.
Who knows? That could have equally been the more horrible minion that stayed alive. So I'm just going to armour up again. So really the proper use of Brawl would be if there was a lot of minions on the table. Playing that 5 mana card is a little bit silly of me, I'm not going to lie. Now our Warlock here really stuffing his hand full of cards, taking more damage with life tap. If I can get some of my combos out, he's going to be in some trouble. He could be playing a Mountain Giant, something that revolves around having a lot of cards in his hand. I think that really I want to just, for 8/8, I just want to be able to get out a weapon and start swinging away. I'm so armoured up at the moment that I'm not going to take any damage from my Mountain Giant, so
Job's done.
I'm not going to get enough damage on my hero at the moment even to play that Molten Giant, beg my pardon. So with that I might as well just get a weapon. Oh, Jiraxxus! That is going to be painful. So Jiraxxus of course replaces the hero, so he's healed himself for 3. He gets a 2 power that summons a 6/6 Infernal and Blood Fury that does a hell of a lot of damage as well. So I need to get some pressure out pretty quickly. Now what are my options? Well, whenever I cast a spell I can draw a card. I've not got spells down at the moment to be able to cast with.
Thank you.
So I'm going to swing. Down. Now, a couple of options here. I could armour up or drop another minion. I'm going to drop a minion because, let's face it, even though those 6/6 Infernals cannot charge,
Well played.
I need to be able to kill this guy within 2 goes. Going for the trade. Loads of cards in his hand, loads of mana. 3 damage to all characters, bango my minions, and of course he can attack for 3 and get that. Oh, and restores 4 health. This could be going right down to the wire. Here come the swings. He has not gone for hero Infernal Power, interestingly. So the Azure Drake will let me draw a card. Any cards I would like, please. Warrior Aggro will let me keep swinging away with my hero. Now I could of course next turn Youthful Brewmaster into drawing another card. I just want to be dropping these pressure on that hero, stopping him from healing himself. I do still have the advantage, but this could be quite hairy come the end of the game. Drain life, 2 health, restores 2. And Drain Lives again, he's just healing himself up. And then a Shadow Bolt, he's really picking up the minions left, right and centre. Can attack, and this is going to be hairy. But look at the lowered cost, my Molten Giant is now playable. 2 damage to 2 enemy minions. Let's have a think. Now I can armour up and attack. I can attack anyway. I think getting that Molten Giant down is the solid play, and I'm hoping against hope he's not going to be able to do anything in terms of moving that off the table. I could have waited 1 more turn and then played all of these in a go. So he needs to make a decision. He needs to remove that Molten Giant from the table. He can partially trade.
We must cleanse the Sunwell. We must cleanse the Sunwell.
Certainly can. 2 Shattered Sun Clerics. He needs 1 more to be able to actually pick my minion off in 1 go. Instead, he's going straight for the kill. Now what he doesn't know is that I can do 11 damage next go if he does not kill my Molten Giant. And he has the Soulfire, 4 damage into the Priestess of Elune, 2 Soulfires in a row, and suddenly his deck comes out late game. Untold, power overwhelming, and dropping, I think, that Warsong Commander is actually going to spell my demise.
Oblivion!
He's a happy chap, isn't he, with his Oblivion. So with 9 health left, let's do the best. I'm not going to be able to kill him in 1 go, sadly. The 2 damage to 2 random minions is not going to help. Neither is Youthful Brewmaster.
Thank you.
I can draw a card with Azure Drake and see if it gives me hope against hope anything useful. 5 armour and draw a card. Well, he can do 3, 10, 13, 16, 22. That's not going to help. I'm going to return that card into my hand. And really, this is good game. So I'm going to well played because I just simply get past that Jiraxxus. An interesting example of how this deck didn't quite work out. Not enough pressure early in the game, could not quite finish him off. And I'm actually going to go through that on this recorded replay to see exactly what went wrong. So that, with 1 win and 1 loss, is our balanced. Have a little bit of a look at knowing our enemy. So we now know a little bit more about our Hearthstone Half Hour Thor or Aggro Warrior deck. We've taken a look at Aggro Warrior, and we've had a look at how different warrior abilities can come together for lots of early game pressure. Not the easiest deck to play. It's not as simple as smashing your face into a hunter deck or similar things like that, but there's lots of combos. One of the combos, the Molten Giant Lethal Brewmaster Warsong Commander, since Razor was playing, I think that's become a little bit less strong, but I never really got away the Worgen in a Rage properly. That's a challenge, but generally most of the combos in this deck revolved around the old version of the Warsong Commander. So the Warsong Commander, if I just pull him up, I'm just going to test my memory. Patch change. Changes to the Warsong Commander. Yeah, this card used to just give all of your other minions charge. So a lot of combos in this deck, when Razor was playing it, actually used to revolve around just charging in with huge minions. There wasn't that 3 attack constraint. So there you go, my memory was correct, and we can see that this deck actually probably needs quite a fundamental little rework. But it's a good learning experience. Maybe we could have a more small minion charge orientated deck as well, and remove those Molten Giants and do something similar. But that's an interesting insight into one kind of deck. So thank you very much for tuning in. A quick sum up of where you can find us and what goes on. We do 4 nights a week, trying to do 5. Mondays are new player to new player Mondays, where we go through basic concepts, deck building, basic strategy and similar. Tuesdays we do Arena Tuesday, where we start a new arena run, draft a deck and then run through and see how it goes for a few games. Wednesday we get into ladder, so we'll jump in with our ladder deck of the week or of the month, or whatever we're playing right now, and really take a look at the competitive ladder scene and see what's going on there, the deck types, how we're getting on, and all kinds of similar. Thursday we generally do either as a sort of tactics episode, go into something for a bit of fun, do something a little bit different, and Friday we'll play a completely different game entirely if we are casting on that day. Thank you very much for tuning in. You can find all of our Hearthstone Half Hour archive videos at youtube.com/Felcroftcasts. See them all there. Like, comment, what can we do better, what should we do less of? Please let us know. We just want to do better content for you guys, so we really appreciate any feedback you can give. Twitter, have a chat to us, twitter.com/@Felcroftcasts. You can find us there. Twitch, if you've tuned in live, a Twitch account is free. Sign up, subscribe to our Twitch channel, and then you'll get an email when we're about to go live. That's twitch.tv/Felcroftcaster. And last but not least, the website is felcroft.org. You can find not only all of our videos, some text-based commentary around them, blog posts, other Hearthstone news, but things that live a little bit better on the website as well, like deck lists, for example, and things that maybe don't come off quite so well in a video format. So that is us for today, 31st episode.